I have a comment about beauty. I think in the church there are some who think we want to be only celebrative and joyful and sweet and pretty. That how different pretty is than beautiful, and that beautiful sometimes necessitates 2 and 3 layers lower of finding out authenticity, and such that from my own experience, I'm much less likely to enjoy a Radio City Music Hall thing where everything is shine and sweet and upbeat than I am a Shakespeare tragedy where my heart is wrenched because of something that has to be settled, or even the kinds of scriptures that gnaw away. That Michael Card, who was here last semester with us, has done such careful work in the last couple of books and some recordings about just yearning or encouraging us to be honest with God about our frustrations, our anger, our lack of understanding, and then to relent and to fall towards God rather than letting that come away. For me, beautiful is so different than pretty.
Yes, absolutely. And here's another way to look at that very same thing. You look at a medieval crucifix, contorted, pained, bloody, gory, but there's a beauty to it. Irrespective of the beauty represented by the Christological act of giving himself for us. That's its own kind of beauty connected to the absoluteness of God and the beauty of his holiness. But the artifactual beauty of suffering, as portrayed in a crucifix. Cormac McCarthy, let's go back to him, one of the most beautiful writers in existence, sort of the contemporary Faulkner, but I think he's better. There's just something elegantly beautiful about Cormac McCarthy, and his novels are darker than dark. Darker than dark, but there's beauty. So you're right, Chip. Beauty is not about prettiness and everything's okayism carried to the aesthetic max. Beauty is a way of saying anything with a force that very few people can say it with. So we have this guy on the top of the pyramid. We have the McCarthys in the box, and so on and so forth. One of the things that fascinates me about art is that there's no way to portray ugliness without using an aesthetic to do it. I had an argument with the chairman of the art department at Wheaton College a few years ago. He was arguing about that, and he was somewhat of a Rookmacher disciple, and somewhat of a Shakespearean when he talked about the ability of art to portray the most tragic, ugly, ghoulish kind of human activity, and he cited Picasso's Guernica as an example. And I said, John, there's not that much ugliness. There's not that much pain in Guernica. That's an aesthetic event. I said, if you walked on that pile of bodies that Picasso has triangulated in his own way of doing it, you walked on a pile of bodies in the street, you would vomit. But you put Picasso in a museum because there's an aesthetic there that you can't ignore. But boy, you see him on the street and you'll retch. You'll retch big time. And that's all part of what you were talking about, this width and complexity and depth and richness of beauty. You can't nail it down. It's
so if Christian worship, one way of looking at it is to put boldly before people for their consideration, yes, here we are, creation, fall, redemption, culmination. Where are we in this story? And if in order to make it pretty and not beautiful, if we put forth creation and culmination,
I wouldn't see that movie.
What'd you say?
I wouldn't see that movie. Creation movie,
Yeah, but it's I worked with a dear brother in the Lord at one time in ministry who felt like who had lived in a sort of a nominal Lutheran life earlier in his life before he actually came to saving faith. He had gone through the hoops of confession, prayer of confession, assurance, and all this thing. And for him, it was to read or sing one of the penitential psalms, or to proclaim any sorrow for sin was wallowing. It was wallowing in our sin. And for me, it's not wallowing. It's reminding me that once I was lost and now I'm found. And
joy isn't vivid until it's silhouetted against grief. I mean, there's just. I don't understand him saying that. I do wish you would have implied that he was saved out of Lutheranism.
No, he wouldn't say that. No.
One of these days, we're going to be talking about evangelicals who were saved out of evangelicalism.
Yeah.
And that day is probably on us right now.
No, I said before he came to faith, that was his only context for Christian practice, and then
you're okay.
and the routine, the cadence of Christian prayer, of Lord have mercy on me, the sinner.
Mm-hmm.
In our circles, I mean, I'm a professor at the largest English-speaking Protestant seminary in the galaxy. Right?
Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, and
Holy moly.
and many in our tradition would think that in confronting the problem of sin is very important at conversion. Mm-hmm. But once someone is saved, once someone knows himself or herself to be a child of God through Christ, that's set aside. That just doesn't have anything to do with New Testament teaching. Mm-hmm. Paul and Peter and John they were writing to Christians when they said, if we say we have no sin, the truth is not in us, and we make God a liar.
Yes.